Welcome to the Pharma Voice Editor's Take video series, filmed live at the 2012 DIA Annual Meeting in Philadelphia. Hosted by Taryn Grome, editor of Pharma Voice. In this episode, Taryn meets with Jennifer Goldsmith, Vice President, Veeva Vault at Veeva Systems.
Jennifer, good morning and welcome to the 2012 DIA Annual Conference Editor's Take video program.
Good morning, Taryn. Thank you.
We're going to talk a little bit today about how the cloud is transforming all areas of the life sciences industry.
Sure. Excellent, excellent. It's really interesting that you mentioned that, Taryn, because we've seen a fundamental shift in the last 15 years in the way in which the life science industry operates. From globalization of processes, movement away from those local processes, to the rapid expansion and changing of the regulatory and business requirements in this environment, to things like collaboration, which 15 years ago meant walking down the hall to share a piece of paper with your colleague, but today means a vast ecosystem of partners, co-marketing partners, co-development partners, as well as trusted vendors, people like clinical research organizations or contract manufacturing or sales organizations. What's really interesting about these changes is they've placed a lot of demands on the life sciences industry to be agile and flexible, and cloud is a technology enabler for that process. Cloud and software as a service in particular have helped to enable change, rapid change in the life sciences industry in a couple of different ways. Let's just go through two examples. One great example of how cloud has helped to enable change is in enabling external partners for collaboration. So when you look at people like clinical research organizations, in the past, let's say in an R&D submission system, it would take weeks, if not months, to bring those people behind your firewall, to take them through the process of learning your system, and to get them enabled. In today's environment, that type of length of time is simply not an option. What cloud and software as a service bring to the table is the ability to do that type of operation in a matter of minutes, that your collaborations can occur on the same day that you actually need them. Another great example of this is when you look out in the R&D space. There's a tremendous amount of change that occurs around regulatory requirements, submissions-related documentation, and that change often takes a long time to implement in today's on-premise system. You're probably familiar with the 18 to 36-month cycle for actually implementing those types of changes, from the time you identify a requirement to the time the software vendor actually places that into a release of the system, to the time you do your impact analysis and actually push that change out the door to your end user community. By then, that requirement may no longer even be valid. What software as a service and cloud does is it allows you to iterate much more rapidly. Most software as a service applications actually have releases 3 to 4 times a year, so that it's only a 3 to 9 month period until you actually get those requirements out to your end user communities. This really allows life sciences organizations to much more rapidly respond to change, to collaborate much more easily, and to incorporate that changing requirements into their technology environment so that they can focus on their true business of innovation.
That's amazing insights. Now, Veeva has been a pioneer in the software as a service as well as the cloud. So talk to us about what efficiencies, cost savings, and process improvements that cloud-based products and services can bring to the table for sponsors.
Sure. It's really amazing the transformation that's taken place just in the last few years around these technology capabilities. A couple of key components to process efficiency, to the cost efficiency, to overall efficient process and work within the life sciences environment is the ability to add that change into your environment much more quickly. One of the things that's really interesting about what software as a service brings to the table is the fact that you don't have to rely on customization anymore to provide you with business value. If you remember in the past, 10, 15 years ago, everything was a customized system, and each individual life sciences organization, whether it was for document management, whether it was for CRM, customer relationship management, or some other business system, had a tremendous amount of customization associated with it. Software as a service, on the other hand, brings best practices to the table. And you don't customize software as a service. In fact, what you do is you configure that to meet your specific business needs, but you leverage those best practices, which allows you to get up and running much more quickly, allows you to deploy it to your users much more quickly, and allows you to reduce the costs associated with customizing and maintaining those customizations over time. Another interesting transition for us has been the fidelity to end user requirements that has occurred. So when you look at software as a service in particular and the implementation methodology, it's no longer a matter of throwing requirements over the wall to a technical team. Instead, what happens is the end users who participate in that process participate from day one. They're inside of the system, they're working with those changes as they're implemented. As a result, at the tail end of a project, that implementation process is much smoother. UAT, or user acceptance testing, which could take weeks or months in a traditional software environment, literally takes a matter of days, and the end user satisfaction overall is much higher because they've seen those changes emerge. Lastly, and perhaps most importantly, software as a service and cloud allows life sciences customers to be constantly up to date with their capabilities. And let me explain what I mean by that. In a traditional on-premise environment, you spend a lot of time and money customizing your system. You get that available and rolled out to the end user communities. And the day that you go into production is the day that you start losing currency to the current business requirements and capabilities. And you see it go along a trajectory that takes it down into a valley for maybe 18, 36, even 48 months and beyond, until such point as you spend effort and time and money to upgrade to the next version of that software. And it's a major process to make that happen. Software as a service, on the other hand, and in particular systems like content management systems, regulated content management, CRM, allows you to continue to consume those enhanced capabilities over time. So it is an appreciating asset that you have always current as opposed to a depreciating asset. Now, we see this come into play in a couple of different areas. When we talk about things like promotional materials management processes, for example, those processes are enabled out of the box by software as a service application. They're enabled end-to-end, all the way from concept and strategy to medical, legal, and regulatory review, all the way down to the tail end of the process where you are distributing and monitoring the consumption of that distributed content as well as withdrawing it. In order to add new capabilities, let's say if there is a change to the regulatory requirement for the UK self-certification process, the vendor actually creates that modification, deploys it in just a couple of months, and everyone has access to that change. So what this really does is it allows life sciences companies to focus again on their core business of innovation, their core business of creating product, and not on keeping the lights on their infrastructure.
Jennifer, thank you so much for talking to us about the applicability of the cloud and the benefits it can bring to the industry.
Great, thank you, Taryn.
Additional Editors Take videos, as well as podcasts, white papers, webinars, and more, are available in the resources area at www.pharmavoice.com.